guys, welcome back to the part 2 of this tutorial. Today we are going to stitch our trouser. It is easy. So now we are going to do some certain things for us to start going. If today is your first time of checking on this channel, you are highly welcome. My returning subscribers, you guys are amazing. Thanks for your candid support. And if you have not subscribed, consider subscribing. Subscription is free. Support me to grow this channel. So guys, I would like us now to start stitching our trouser. If you have not watched the part 1 of this video, please try to watch it so that you can know how to draft and cut before you can equally stitch. So guys, let us get started. So this is the front and the back panel of the trouser that we have just cut. Do you see it? So I'm going to take away the back panel. Let's work first on the front panel. So now the next thing to do is to use gum stay to iron to our side pocket where we are going to attach our pockets. Remember, the pocket is going to be, the length is going to be 7 inches. Here is my 7 inches. I just notch it. Here is my 7 inches. Then I'll use my gum stay. This is gum stay. I measured out 8 inches. Then I'll place it here. Then I'll iron it with my pressing iron. And I'll turn also this side with my gum stay. I'll also iron it. Do you see it? Now guys, I'll have ironed this side. Then I will turn the other side. That is the second side of the trouser. I'll also place my gum stay here. Do you see it? I'll do the same. I'll iron it. Do you see it, guys? So now I'll take back my tape to measure 3 inches from the upside. You can measure 2 inches, you can measure 3 inches. So I'll measure 2.5 inches. Do you see it? I'll measure 2.5 inches here. So I will just fold it in this form. Do you see it? From the 7 inches that we notched. Do you see it? I'll fold it and I'll give it a press. And I'll do the same to the other side. Two and a half inches. I'll also fold it from the notch. Do you see it? From the notch. You have to make it to be equal. Then I'll give it a press. Do you see it? Do you see it? So this is what you have to do here for inserting our pockets. We are going to first insert our pockets. Do you see it? So now it's ready to insert the pocket. We will put it aside. Then we will now take our pocket. This is our pocket. Remember, I cut out 2. So now, and also when we are cutting out the pocket, we now cut out this part, this little piece from the back crotch to keep it for our pocket. So this is it. Now this is the right side. And this is my pocket. Do you see my pocket? So now I'll open it. This is the right side. And also this is the right side. I'll open it together in this form. I'll keep both in this form. Do you see it? Then I'll take this piece, because to do it so is to avoid when the person puts hands in the pocket, you will see the black color. So to see also the color of the material you are working with, that is why we are doing this. So now you place, this is the right side, you place it like this. So you now take one of this, also the right side, also place it in this form. Do you see it? This is the right side. Yeah, this is the right side. You place it all, one on this side, and you place the other one on this side. This is the way to place it. You don't have to place here and here. No, you place it on this side. Then you use your pin to hold it. You use your pin to hold it. Do you see it? So now I'll take it to the machine to sew it from this side. I'll sew it to make it vast, I'll sew it. When I come to this area, I will fold it in this form. I'll fold it in to look neat. I'll fold it in. Do you see it? I'll fold it in and I'll sew it. I'll fold it in this form. Do you see it? I'll sew it, and I'll sew also here, and I'll sew here. So I'm going to do the same to this, then I'll come back for us to attach it to our. Now guys, I have now sewed the material to the plain material, that is the Ankara material. I've now used it to cover some parts of the pockets so that it's going to be nice when your hand gets into it. So do you see it? To know that what you did is correct, when you face it, it is going to be in this form. Do you see it? The right side has to face also the right side. Do you see it? So this is the wrong side now, this is the wrong side, and this is the two sides that you now place it. One is for each panel of the front trouser. So now the next thing to do is to take our trouser. This is our panel. Do you see it? This is our panel. Then we'll take it. So now I'm going to start with this. I'm going to start with this. Take one of it. That's the wrong side, you know, where we place our gum stay. So I'm going to take this now. It's going to go with this. I'm going to take this. So I'm going to, the right side has to face your table or your machine. So now I'm going to take this and I'll place it in this form. Do you see it? I'm going to place it in this form to sew. Do you see it? So I'm going to hold it with my pin. I'm going to hold it with my pin. Do you see it now? And I'll take the other one also, and I'll place this on top of it and also pin it down. Do you see it? At the edge, it's going to be the same with your panel. Do you see it? So you now also pin it down. Do you see it now? So the next thing to do now is to sew it. So now I'm going to start sewing from this. Remember, we iron it and it gives it a sharp edge. So you don't have to sew at this sharp edge. You have to sew some 1/4 inch here from where you down iron it. That is where you are going to sew it. Not exactly where you iron. No, you have to come out maybe 1 or 2 bars to sew it close, very close to the sharp edge. So that is what we are going to do now. So I'll place it to my machine, then I'll sew it. So now guys, I have sewn it. Do you see it? I've sewn the pockets to it. So the next thing to do is just to place it good, open it up in this form, open it up, and now top stitch the panel to the pockets. But top stitching it, you have to make it to look neat by folding the edge in. Just by 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, you fold it in this form. You see it? You can even use your pin to hold it. You just fold it in just to make it look neat. Do you see it? You just fold it in. So I'm going to now sew it down. I'm going to sew it down. Then I'll do the same to the other one. Then we'll see how it looks. Yes, do you see? I have sewn it to be attached firm to the main body. So now is to construct our pocket. So what you have to do is just to take it. This is the right side. You fold it in this form. Do you see it? So you fold it, and from the 7 inches that we notched, you come down by 1/2 inch to close it up. Do you see it? So now we are going to come down from the 7 inches. We come down to 1/2 inch. We notch it. Do you see it? We notch it. So from there we will now close it up with another 1/2 inch. Do you see it? Now we have closed it up. Then we will now put our hands inside. We'll now put our hand inside and turn it outside. Do you see it? Then the next thing to do is also to top stitch. We are going to also to top stitch the pockets. So now we are going to top stitch the pockets. Now guys, do you see our pockets? Our pocket is fixed. Do you see it? This is our pocket. So the next thing to do is just to top stitch here to hold it to the panel, and also to top stitch here to hold it also to this side, to just to top stitch a little here, 1/2 inch to hold the pocket to the panel, and also on the front side on the waist also to top stitch it, so that it will be vast until you now add your band. So I'm going to do that, after which I will now do the same to the other parts of the. So now guys, that's our pockets. Do you see it? Do you see it? I've top stitched it to the waist, and also here I now close it with a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do the same to the other one, then we'll see how it looks. Now guys, our two front panel have been fixed with the pockets. Do you see it? So the pockets have been fixed. Now guys, that's the pocket. Do you see it? And that's the front side. The two pockets have been fixed. Do you see it? And you can now put your hands. Do you see it? I've done the same to this. So the next thing now is to insert our zip. So the next thing is to insert our zip. So the same to this. So the next thing now is to attach our zip. So now I'm going to now place the two together, right side facing each other, and I'm going to take my measurements on where to the length of the zip. The length of the zip I'm working is going to be 7 inches plus 1/2 inch seam allowance, that is 7.5. That is here. So from this 7.5 now I'll use 1/2 inch to close it up to this point. Do you see it? So I'm going to use 1/2 inch to close. You see it? I've closed it up by the 1/2 inch. So the next thing now is to take our zip. Remember the part that we cut the crotch of the front panel. So I've just added gum stay to it and I fold it in two. Do you see it? So now our trouser, this is our trouser, the right side facing each other. Do you see it? The right side facing each other. Then you open it up, and the one that is on your table, that is where you are going to place your zip. So this is the zip I want to use, and this is the right side of the zip. Then I will now open it up. Then I'll use this to place it. This is it. Do you see it? This is it. So I'm going to place it in this form. I'm going to turn it the right side of the zip facing the right side of your fabric. Then you turn it in this form. Do you see it? You turn it in this form. So you now place and you now take your panel, that is, you take the piece that we cut out from the crotch, then you now place on top of it closely. Remember the 7.5 inch, that is where you are going to place it. So you place it in this form. Do you see it? To cover the zip. Do you see it? You place it, then you take it to your machine to sew. So now I'm going to take it to the machine to sew it. First, you can pin it down with your pin to hold it fast, you can pin it down with your pin. Do you see it? So now I'll take it to the machine to sew. Now guys, this is our zip. Do you see it? So the second one, we'll take this, so what we have to do is just to take this to sew it to the material before attaching the other zip. Do you see it? Just take it and sew it with 1/2 inch. Now guys, do you see I have sewn this with 1/2 inch? That is the other part. I have sewn it with 1/2 inch. Do you see it? So the next thing you have to do now is just to press it. You need to press it for it to be smooth. You need to press it. Use your iron to press it to make it smooth, which I'm going to do. Then I'll come back for us to insert the next zip press. Do you see it? So now the edge is sharp. So the next thing to do, do you see it? It has to cover the zip. Do you see it? So lovely. Do you see how it is now? So now I'll turn it over to sew the other one, the other zip to the flap. Do you see it? So this is your zip now. So what you have to do is just to open it up. You open it up, then you take this, you sew it to this. Do you see it? Just take it in this form, then you take it to your machine, you sew, which we are going to do. Do you see it? You sew it to this. Do you see it? So I'll now take it to the machine to sew. First, I'm going to pin it down. I'm going to pin it with my pin. Make sure you are sewing it close to the edge. Do you see where you sew and where you now iron? That is where you are going to attach it. Just attach it to the flap. Do you see it? First, use your pin so that you can get it accurate. Do you see it, guys? So when you open it up, it's in this form. Do you see it? So I'm going to sew it now. I'm going to sew it, after which I'll now curve it to hold the flap to the main panel. So I'm going to now 1 inch. I'm going to measure 1 inch, then I'm going to curve it. Do you see it? So that is what I'm going to do. Then our zip is ready. So now guys, I have attached the other zip on the flap. Do you see it? So while sewing it, come in by 1/2 inch from where you joined it, so that you will have enough room to cover up the zip with the excess material. Do you see it? To be flat on the surface. Do you see it? So now I have sewn it. The next thing to do now is just to take my tape to measure 1 inch. From this point, I'll come out by 1 inch, so that we can give our curve on the front zip. Do you see it? I'll just curve it in this way, just to give that curve that we normally see on trousers. Do you see it? To hold this panel with the flap together. Do you see it? So that this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sew it. I have chalked it with my marker, that my chalk. So I'm going to now sew it in this form. Do you see it? I'll take the back panel. After sewing it, I'll take the back panel. Remember, we left 1/2 inch allowance at the back to insert our darts. So I'm going to just fold it in two. Just fold it in two in this form, and I'll come down by 3 inches. I'll take 1/2 inch, then I'll come down by 3 inches. That is the length of the dart. I'm going to do that, and I'll be back for us to insert our back pocket, because this is for a guy. We are going to insert a back pocket. I've taken in our 1/2 inch. Do you see it? I've taken in our 1/2 inch as the dart at the back. So guys, the next thing to do now is to attach it to the front panel. After that, we will insert our back pockets. So this is the front panel. So I'm going to take it. Do you see it? This side facing this, the right side facing the right side of this, and this facing this also. So that's the way. So I'm going to start from down to close it up with 1/2 inch. So I'm going to start from this down. Remember, we left 2 inches seam allowance. So I'm going to start with 1/2 inch to close it up. So that is what we are going to do now. So now guys, I've closed this side. I'm going to also do the same to the other side. Now guys, I have attached our back panel to the front. Do you see it? I've attached it. This is the pocket. You see the pocket? I've attached it using 1/2 inch on both sides. I've attached it. So the next thing now to do is to insert our back pocket. So what you have to do is to fold it in two. Is to fold the back. That's the back panel. Fold it in two. Do you see it? So now we are going to insert our pockets. The back pockets. This is if you want to insert it. So now we are going to now take the parts that we want, depending where you want to insert it. So I would like it to be at the right hand side. I would like it to be at the right hand side. So now I'm going to open it up in this form. Then I will measure where I want it to be. It will be 3 inches exactly where the dart stopped. This is where the pocket is going to be. This is it. So now I'll get my pocket for us to insert it. Now guys, to attach our pocket, we need to cut out some pieces of fabric. I use this black because I want it to also be a design at the back of the pocket. So now I measured out, the width is 8 inches and the length is 9 inches. I measured out 2. And also I have here the lining that I'll use to cover it up. The lining length is 16 inches and the width is 9 inches. So this is the lining. So the next thing to do is to use my gum stay to iron it. I measured out 3 inches by 8. So I'm going to use this gum stay now to iron to here. Do you see it? And also I'm going to iron to the other pieces. Do you see it? I'm going to the 2 sides that is going to be on the pockets in this form. Let me trim it off. So this is the 2 sides that is going to be in this form. So the next thing to do now is to take our material. We are going to also iron to our material the gum stay. So on the right side that we want the pockets to be, this is where we want the pockets to be, on the right side. We want to attach our pocket on the right side of our material, which is this side. So we are going to open it up to also iron some gum stay to the inside where we are going to attach it. So first we are going to iron it. Do you see it? Then this is another gum stay that I cut out. I also cut out 3 inches by 8. I'll place it exactly after the dart allowance. Do you see it? This is inside. I'm placing it inside exactly after the dart allowance. So I'm going to place it exactly after the dart allowance of 3 inches that we sewed. Then I'm going to iron it down. Do you see it? This is inside. I ironed the gum stay on the inside. So now guys, let's get back to sewing it. So now guys, I'm going to fold this in 2 to get my midpoint. I fold it in 2 to get my midpoint Here is my midpoint. That is the pocket. Here is my midpoint. I want to take the measurement of the length of how the pocket is going to be. So I want it to be 6 inches. So from each side, I'm going to mark 3 inches. You can make it 5.5. You can make it 6, depending on what you want. So I want it to be 6 inches. So I have marked my 6 inches. Do you see it? So I'm going to also place this to mark my 6 inches on it. So guys, do you see it now? So the next thing to do is to now turn the back. This is where we added our gum stay. Then we now turn it. This is the front side. So on this front side now, in the middle of this dart, we are going to place it on the front side. So on that center point, place it on the gum stay at the back. So the center point, where you have your center point, place it at the dart. Do you see it at the dart? You place it at that in this form. Here you can work with your pin. You can work with your pin. Here you can work with your pin. Do you see it? So I'm going to now pin it down. You see it? So I'm going to take the next one. I'm going to take the next one and I'll place it also in this form so that it will match each other. Where we have our 6 inches, it will match. Do you see it? I place it and also I pin it down. Do you see it now, guys? So the next thing I will do is to take it to the machine to sew it 1/4 inch. On each side, I'll sew from 1/4 inch. I'll sew it from this 6 inches to this 6 inches. And on this one, from this 6 inches to this 6 inches, using 1/4 inch. Do you see it? That is what I'm going to do to sew it in this form. Then after sewing it, then I'll bring it back for us to cut it open and now turn in our pocket. Now guys, do you see I've sewn it? Do you see it? Do you see it? I've sewn it with the inches that we left. I've sewn it. So the next thing to do now is to cut it. So when we get here, then we'll now curve it in this form. Do you see it? And also on this form. So we cut also this side open. So guys, do you see it? So I now cut it open 1/2 inch away from the 6 inches. I now curve it to this end so that we are going to have this. So now the next thing to do is to turn it inside. Do you see it is now open? Then we have to turn our pocket inside. So now guys, we have turned our pocket inside. Do you see it? We have turned it inside. So to close this opening, we are going to push this down part up. So before then, we are going to give it a press. And remember, this little thing that we cut open, for it to be open, you have to also press it down. And also on this side, you have to press it down. We are going to... So now, 1/2 inch, use 1/2 inch to push it up, to touch to this upper side. just 1/2 inch, push it up. Do you see it? Use 1/2 inch to push it up, and you now press it back. So let's see how the front is going to be. Do you see it, guys? How the front is going to be. Do you see it? Do you see it? This is how the front is going to be. So the next thing now to do is to take it to the machine. I'll take it to the machine to sew here close to the edge to hold it. Because of the pushing up we did, I'm going to sew it to hold it, and after which I'm going to open up this side to sew the little place that we cut open. I'm going to also sew it down to hold it to the main material. That is this. That is the little piece that we cut open. I'm going to sew it, and on this side also I'm going to open to sew here to the fabric to hold it. That is to hold this. Do you see it? I'm going to sew it here, and I'm going to also sew it here. Then after that, we are going to use our lining to cover it up. Remember, I cut out the black as the lining, but I replace it now with the material. So I'm going to use the material to sew to the lining, to sew it as lining, because I want only the upper part here to be seen with a different material. Then when you open it inside, I want the main material to also be seen. Do you see it? I don't want this. If you use the black, if you use this black as the lining, when you open it up, you are going to see the black. Do you see it? So I want to use the material so that when you open it up, what you are going to see is the material is only this line that is going to be the fancy that is in the pocket. Only this black that is going to be the fancy. So now I'm going to take it to the machine. We are going to sew it close to the edge, and also sew these cuttings down, and also on this side sew it down. Then we'll now take our lining. We will join the lining on these down parts. We'll join the lining, we'll do it. So now guys, let us sew the pockets to hold it where that we pushed up to cover the opening. Now guys, have you seen it? So I have sewn it. So the next thing to do is to open up here and sew this little piece to the material, to this. Do you see it? We are going to sew it here. Do you see it now? I've sewn it to here, so I'm going to do the same to this side. I'm going to do the same to this side. Do you see it? Now guys, do you see it? So that's our pocket on the front side. Do you see how it is on the front side? That's our pocket on the front side. Do you see it? So the next thing is to press it with your iron. Just press it down. Just press it down. So the next thing I have to do is to take my lining. I'm going to take my lining to sew to the down part of this. So I'm going to join it here. Do you see it? I'm going to join it here. The right side facing each other. I'm going to join it. Do you see it? So I'm going to sew it. So guys, do you see I have joined it? So now we are going to determine the length of our pocket. we place it back on our table to determine the length of our pockets. So now we are going to close it up. So I want the length of the pockets to be, you can determine 6 inches, you can determine 7 inches. So from here, I want it to be 7 inches. So this is my 7 inches here. So I'm going to bring it up in this form. Do you see it? So here is my 7 inches. Do you see it? So now I'm going to sew it. So let's sew. Just take it in this form. I'm going to start on this side, So I'll turn it in this form. So I'll start sewing it. So guys, when you come to the upper part, you have to close it in this form so that your pocket will not be open at the upper side. Do you see it? So I'm going to close it up here. I'll show you to you guys what I meant. Otherwise, if you don't close it, your pocket can be open and your things will be falling off from there. So now I'm going to close it up from the upper side. So guys, do you see I close it up from the upper side? Do you see it? Because here will be open. If you don't do that, the upper side of your pocket will be open. But now this is our pocket. Do you see it? And here we just insert whatever we want to insert. Do you see it? So beautiful. Do you see it? So that's our pocket. Now we open it up. On the background we see the material, the same material, but on the surface here the black is like a design to it. Do you see it? Do you see it, guys? So the next thing I have to do now is to cut it out. I'm going to cut it from the waist. Don't make the mistake of cutting it from here. Cut it exactly from the waist. Do you see it? I've cut it. And also on this side, I'm going to trim it. These sides, but if you don't have weaving, it's not a problem. Thing to do is to fold our panels in two. That is to close it up. Do you see it? Just put it together. That is the back side. Put it together. Do you see it? From the zip, put it together. Then place it back to take your measurement. Now we are going to take our waist measurement. Remember, the waist we are working with is 47. 47 divided by 2. We are going to have 23.5. So let's check what we have here. We have 24 inches. Do you see it? So we are going to mark at 23.5. That is here. So from this 23.5, I'm going to close it down. So from this 23.5, I'm going to come down by 2 inches. I'm going to come down by 2 inches. So from these 2 inches, I'm going to close it up. I've closed it up, leaving 2 inches open here. So the next thing to do now is to take our laps measurements. Do you see it? That's the next thing to do, to take our laps measurements. So we are going to close up our panel. So now the ankle we are working with, remember the ankle we are working with is 14 inches, and 14 inches divided by 2 is going to give you 7 inches. So we are going to mark our 7 inches. So from here we are going to mark 7 inches. Do you see it? We have 7.5. So ½ inch we are going to mark. Do you see it? Our 7 inches. So we are going to sew it. We are working with lap 16. 32 divided by 2 is going to give us 16. So let's measure and see what we have. We have 16 and a half. Do you see it? So we are on the right track. So we are going to close it also by ½ inch. So it then means all what we are using is ½ inch that we added. So we are on the right track. So I'm going to close it up to this side and also do the same to the other side, then we will see. On this crotch point, you have to make sure that it laps with each other while sewing it. You have to make sure so that it's flat. You backstitch it to be strong so that it doesn't go open or get torn. So now, do you see it, guys? So I'm going to do the same to this other side. I'm going to close it up with ½ inch from here till the end because it's ½ inch we are using. All our measurements are right. So I'm going to close it up with ½ inch. Then I'll show to you guys the look. Guys, do you see it? So neat. I've closed it. So let's turn it to see how our trouser is looking. So guys, do you see our trouser? Do you see it? It says big size trouser. So do you see it? So beautiful. Do you see the back, the pockets? Do you see it? And we have closed it up using our allowance that we left, our ½ inch allowance that we left. Do you see it? That is what we use to close it up. So the next thing to do now is to insert our belt band. So this is our band. Remember, we cut out 29 inches in 2 places, and I've added it gum stay. Do you see it? I added it gum stay and I close it up by ½ inch. Do you see it? I added gum stay to it to make it hard. I close it up by ½ inch and I fold it back again. So this is our band that we are going to attach, and this is our stripe. This is our stripe. To achieve your stripe, remember we cut out some pieces. We cut out some pieces of 1½ inch. So you just fold it in this form, you fold it again, and you fold it in this form. Do you see it? Then you now top stitch it. If you want, you can top stitch 2 times, or if you want, you can top stitch once. So now I have done mine and I've cut out some pieces. Look at it, I've done it. Then I've cut out 4 inches. I cut out 6 of it. 6 that I needed, I cut out 6 of it. Do you see it? And this is the leftover. This is the leftover. I don't want it. I can keep it for something else. So now, guys, this is our belt stripe. I cut out 6. Do you see it? So now the next thing to do is to determine where to insert our belt. So now we are going to measure it out. From this zip point, I'm going to go in by 3 inches. I'll insert 1 here, and on this side I'm going to also go in by 3 inches. Just mark it so that when sewing it will be easy for you. And on this point, that is where we now attached the back and the front panel on the side. I'm going to also insert 1 on this side, and I'm going to also insert another one on this side. So on the back, I'm going to turn it from this point, from the middle of the back. I'm going to also go out by 3 inches. And on this side, I'm going to also go out by 3 inches. So this is how we are going to insert our 6th stripe. Do you see it? So now, the next thing to do is to take our band. So this is our band now. Remember, we kept open 2 inches on this side. We kept open 2 inches while sewing it. So from this 2 inches, we are going to sew the band to it. Do you see it? that is the half. I'm going to sew it. I'm going to sew it in this form to come to the front. That is the front part of the zip. When you come to this side, make sure you open it. And while sewing it, remember to attach your belt stripe. Don't forget it. So let's do it together. So remember, here is the first place we are going to insert our belt stripe. So I'm going to take one of it. I'm going to take one of it and insert it here and pin it down so that I'm not going to forget it. Otherwise, you start again to lose it up. So now let's sew it. When you come to the belt stripe, you can back stitch. Then you continue. So now we are here on the second part of the where we are going to insert the belt stripe. That is where we added the front and the back together. So we take another one. I raise the foot of my machine up and I will insert it here. Do you see it? And I put it down to sew. Remember to back stitch. So guys, I'll do it to all. On this side, I'll show it to you. Guys, I would like to show you something. While inserting the band, don't forget the back pockets. Do you see it now? Don't forget it to also sew it together. Do you see it? Don't forget it to sew it together. So I'm now placing it to sew it. See it, guys? I've sewn the back pockets. Do you see it? So it's now going to be, do you see how it is at the back? Do you see how it is? So, and now look at the belt stripe. I've also inserted the belt stripe and I've come to the zip. I've not closed it up. It's still open. Do you see it? So we are now going to do the same on the other side before we now close the zip and the back parts together. Now guys, I have joined the two bands to the trouser that we are making. Do you see it? I've joined it. Do you see it? Using the 1/2 inch. And the stripes also where we marked, I have also joined all the stripes. Do you see it? And on the front also we have joined. So the next thing to do now, and before then, if you are joining, remember your pockets to sew it also to the band. Remember it, this is our pocket, and also on this side, this is our front pocket, and on the back pocket also, remember to sew it to the band, which I've done. So the next thing to do now is to close up this back side. Remember, the back side is still open where we join the band. So we are going to just turn it in this form. Just turn it in this form. Open it up completely. Open it up completely. And we are going to stitch it with also 1/2 inch. Do you see it? We are going to stitch it with 1/2 inch also. So I'm going to do that now to stitch it with 1/2 inch. Following the 1/2 inch that we started, we are going to stitch it. I'm going to do that and trim off these excesses and I'll show it to you guys. As you see, I have closed it up with the 1/2 inch. Do you see it? And make sure that these two lines, the bands, are equal. If there is any mistake, you loosen it up and sew it again. Do you see it? Make sure the two lines are equal, that is on the same line. So the next thing to do now is to close it up. Open it in this form. Just open it in this form. If you have weaving, you can weave it. I'm not weaving it, so I'm going to just open it up in this form. Do you see how I open it? Then you now close it. Do you see it? So we are going to close it with our band. Do you see it? So we are going to close it in this form. Do you see? That is the way we are going to close all the bands. Do you see it now, guys? So I'm going to take it to the machine for us to start sewing it. When we get to the front, then we will now work on the parts of the zip. Remember, the zip is not yet closed. So now we are going to start. So I'm going to close it up in this form for us to sew. Now guys, do you see how it is? I've pinned it down. Do you see it? So now we are going to work on this side, that is on the belt end for the zip. Do you see it? So what we are going to do is to turn it open. We are going to open it up. We are going to open it up and we are going to sew it. Do you see it? We are going to turn it open like this to sew it with 1 inch. We are going to sew it with 1 inch. Do you see it, guys? So we are going to trim off this excess. So we cover it up, we turn it back. Do you see it? So now we are going to stitch. Do you see it now? So our zip is inside. Do you see how beautiful it is? Do you see it? So the same thing we are going to do on this side. We are going to also do the same on this side. So we are going to also do the same, just in this form. Also go out by 1 inch. Now turn it inside. Now guys, do you see it? Do you see it? We are going to use it also in this form to close up this end. Then we are going to sew. Do you see it? So now guys, do you see it? So this is it. We have closed our zip. So I'm going to sew to it very close from the front. I'm going to sew it very close to the line. So after that, I'm going to now sew our stripe in this form. So I'm going to just stitch the upper part of this round to sew our stripe to it. Do you see it? I'm going to do that and I'll come back for us to see how it looks. Guys, the stripe, you don't place it in this form. If you place it, they will see the edges. You fold it half, a little bit, 1/4 inch. You fold it in this form. Do you see it? You fold it in this form. Then you now place it and you now top stitch on it. But I'm going to sew round the edge of the waist belt. I'm going to sew it, the band. I'm going to sew it. So on each side of the stripe, I'm going to do it in that form. I'll show it and I'm going to sew it and I'll show it to you guys. So now guys, this is our band. It has been fixed. Do you see it? The belt stripe. Do you see it? And do you see the zip? Do you see how neat it is? Do you see the inside? Do you see it? This is our trouser that we have just DIY. So simple and is a big size. Do you see how beautiful it is? Being a big size, still it is clean and beautiful. Do you see it? I've top stitched the upper side and also while top stitching it, I now also fix the stripe. Do you see it, guys? Do you see how it is? Do you see it so neat? Do you see it? So our trouser is now ready. And also on this side, remember to curve the band, curve it a little bit. Do you see it? to make it look nice. Just curve it. So that's our trouser. Then I have to zip it. Do you see it? So our trouser is ready. The next thing to do is just to fold it on the down part using our measurement. And also remember, we use 2 inches for folding. So I'm going to fold it with the 2 inches, and our trouser is ready, and we'll see how it looks. This is the 2 inches. I have folded it. Do you see it? To avoid it to rumple at the hem, because sometimes while folding your hem it rumples, take out the cover of your machine and put it inside in this form. Do you see it? When you put it inside in this form and you sew it, it's not going to rumple. Do you see it? It's going to be neat. So now the trouser is ready. Let us see how it looks. Now guys, this is our trouser. The next thing to do is just to insert your pin or whatever you have to insert here, the hook. That is the next thing to do, which I will do it. So now our trouser is ready, and I've hemmed the down part of it. Do you see it? So our trouser is ready. It's a very big sized trouser, and it's looking so fitting and beautiful. So guys, if this tutorial has been helpful to you, don't forget to follow me on my other social media handles, IJ Designs on Pinterest, Iconic IJ on Facebook, and also on my other YouTube accounts, where you will see more of IJ and family. There is known as Iconic IJ and Family Lifestyle. So guys, support me on that YouTube channel. And now I will leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. Hope this tutorial has been helpful to you. So like and share, and see you in my next video. Bye.